What's up, guys? Welcome back to the gym, and today we'll be doing some expanded deck stuff. Just because Philadelphia is right around the corner, it's like 2 weeks away, which is kind of scary to think about because Orlando just wrapped up, and we're going to be switching formats from standard to expanded. So going into expanded, I'm going to look at the deck that I am most, I guess, liking right now is Mega Manectric Garbodor. This deck had last year a lot of very good finishes, including at last year's Lancaster Regionals. It dominated that Regionals as well. So it would only be fitting, going back to the state of Pennsylvania, that it would be one of the best decks going in. Now, the reason I think this deck is good is because its biggest obstacles during the previous expanded formats were Night March and Flareon Vespiquen, both decks that heavily rely on Battle Compressor and can one-shot Mega Manectrics. With the inclusion of Karen, those decks lose favor, as well as with one Karen, you can kind of just take swing of the game. 210 HP is a lot of HP just for something a one shot. Now, granted, Mega Rayquaza can, and Mega Groudon as well can, but in both of those matchups, you have a fighting chance. Whereas in Night March and Vespiquen Flareon, they just kind of set up and smack you, and the game just kind of ends because you can't stream attackers as fast as you would like. Without, I guess, going too much into why I love the deck, let's jump right into it. So there's one Shaman, um, just for the draw and, you know, standard stuff for Shaman. You don't need any more than one, I think, just because you're playing Wobbuffets and having to either open Shaman or relying on a turn 1 Shaman is just both not really good. And it's just like for that late game part where you're like, hey, I don't have a Garbodor out, I don't have a Wobbuffet out, might as well draw some cards, you know? Or early game when you don't open the Wob, but the Shaman can be clutch, but it's shouldn't be the crux of your draw engine in this deck because you play Garbodor as well as Wobbuffet, so you're basically blocking off abilities from the other end. There's 3/3 Mega Manectric line. Some decks opt to play a 4/3. I think 3/3 is just fine. Um, the Baby Manectric as well as the Mega both are really, really good attackers. The Baby has Overrun, which is 20/20, which I really, really like, and then Assault Laser, which does 60 plus 60 if they have a tool attached to them. Both attacks that are really, really strong and can um, do big damage because a lot of things in the expanded format have tools attached a majority of the time. Um, Following is the Mega Manectric, which does 110 damage for 2 energy, 1 lightning and a colorless. And on top of the 110 damage, which is really strong because a lot of things, which 2 shots almost anything if you attack properly, puts 2 basic energies from your discard onto one of your bench Pokemon. Meaning you can start powering up another attacker. And in this deck, nothing requires more than 2 energy. Not a single thing, which is super awesome. Following, we've got the Hoopa EX 1. Hoopa is super good just because you get that one Hoopa, you set up, you grab like 2 Mega Baby Manectrics, 1 Mega, and you're set up. Your setup is done for 1 turn. You don't need much more than that. 1 Mewtwo EX. I like Mewtwo just because it gives you a chance against things like Groudon and Trouble in certain matchups, and like Toad as well. And it's a nice attacker to have to just put energies on, and you can use Side Drive if you need to, because you play 2 Psychic. I doubt you'll ever get to pull that off, but if you do, that's a pretty sick attack to pull off. And it's just I like having Mewtwo as a fourth attacker in the deck. It's a reliable one besides Trubbish. Now Trubbish is tool drop for 1 Psychic and 1 Colors. It does 20 times all the number of tools in play. That's yours and your opponent's. And in the expanded format, tools are super big. So there's that, which is also I guess doubles up as an attacker. And to Garbodor, sorry, just block off abilities. Shutting them down is super important because you're trying to slow decks down to your pace in the expanded format, where everything is so fast with Battle Compressor being back. There's 2 Wobbuffets. Ideally, he's your opener. If you open Wobbuffet, you're blocking off a lot of the abilities in the expanded format. Shaman, um, Drach EX, not Hoopa, unfortunately, but you're stopping the Drach EX being one of the biggest one. And with a lot of decks relying on Jirachi in the expanded format, you're just kind of locking them out if you can open Wobbuffet. And now there's only two, but you could go up to three. You could do what you want with that, but I think two is really good. Um, I don't have much space for another. The deck is very tight on space, as you'll see as I go through it. There's two Battle Compressor. You can just discard the key supporters you need, get some energy in the discard before you can pull off an attack. It's just a really, really good card in the expanded format. I think almost every deck should play it unless you're a Vileplume variant. Even then, some of them should, I think, still, other than the Sammy box, which is basically Vileplume Toolbox with Jolteon, Glaceon, multiple attackers, like Evital. There's one computer search. A-specs are legal. A-specs are really, really good. What it does is pretty much you can get whatever card you need, so it's just self-explanatory. 4 Trainer Snare, 4 Ultra Ball, 4 VS Seekers. Super standard, super draw cards, get what you need, do what you need to do. Consistency is key. 1 AZ, I like AZ a lot just because you can pick up what's stuck in the active spot, like a Hoopa, a Shaman, whatever, as well as I can AZ up a Mega Manectric, have the Mega, have the baby, and then Mega Evolve onto a different Manectric that has a Spirit Link attached. So I can preserve all of that and deny my opponent of a KO, which is super clutch. It's just you don't get the tool back or the energies, which is unfortunate, but the energies go to the discard. Therefore, you can put them back on the baby, and the baby just has just as good of an attack, if not better. Chorus, decks revolve around Big Bunch expanded. Chorus is a super, super good draw card. I love it. The ability to potentially drop to 10, maybe even 16 cards is nuts. So yeah, no reason not to have one. Karen, it's again you're out. You can do some big things. Karen, and then Night March, Vespiquen, they're just kind of dead. You get your Pokemon back too. So if you have to discard some Megas and stuff early game, there's not really any Pokemon in this deck that you want to be in the discard. Like any Pokemon coming back into your deck is a welcome return. Like you want those megas, you want those babies, you want that shaman for draw power, you want those Garbodor pieces, you want that Hoopa. I mean, like maybe the Wobbuffets sometimes, but everything is an attacker and everything is potentially a threat. So it's good to have them all back. Two Lysander, one sometimes just doesn't cut it, and 110 damage. You want to be one-shotting things like shaman. You want to be pulling up threats. You want to be knocking out. You want to start hitting things, doing just some small damage. Lysander's is a good card. 1N, self-explanatory. Um, you could go to two. I opt to play one because I like to play a Pokemon Center Lady. Pokemon Center Lady heals 60 damage and a status condition, and it's really, really strong because Hypnotoxic Laser is a card in Expanded. Because of that, you heal 60 and you get rid of their poison or sleep, whatever. Um, so you're just like, hey, you just try to do some shenanigans and you're out of me flipping tails on laser and you flipping heads is gone. So you do that. Four Sycamore or Juniper, super standard draw cards. Two Parallel City. If you get your turn one parallel down on like a Vespiquen or a Night March or anything, it just three bench is super hard to work with in any format, expanded, standard, whatever. As I learned this past weekend, three bench is like actually impossible to work with because a lot of decks rely on Hoopa, rely on Jirachi EX, Shamans to set up, and they just don't have that luxury of overbenching now because they have to dig for their own stadium. And if they ever whiff that stadium, you can just run away with the game. Two Rough Seas, just because in matchups like Trevenant and like just things that are meant to chip away at you, you can continuously heal and offset that damage, which is really nice. Three Floatstone, good for Garb, good for Trubbish, good for Wobbuffet, Hoopa, whatever. You have to use your Garb block. You can get Wobbuffet out of the active spot. It's all sick. Three Spirit Links. You could go to four. I like three. I think it's fine because the baby is just as good as the Mega. All you really need this with this deck is a baby Manectric and an energy attachment on the first turn, and you're more than golden a lot of the time because it's a very simple setup. There's seven lightnings and two psychic. Some people like to do 6-3. I like 7-2 just because I don't find myself needing the psychics as often as I do, and I like to put focus on the Manectric in this deck. So, um, going into this, like the matchups are pretty standard. Evital is a really, really strong matchup for you unless they play Gallade. If they play Gallade, you just have to watch out for the Gallade and play around it a little bit, and you have to use like your Trubbish or your Mewtwo for that and knock that out. Um, the Mewtwo is also very, very good for Gallade. Yeah, so keep that for Gallade. Virizion Genesect should be pretty favorable unless they start G boosting and doing big damage. They won't be able to use Red Signal because you've got Garbodor out. Trevenant should be favorable. You're one-shotting baby Trevenants, and you have Rough Seas to offset the damage. If you get a Floatstone Trubbish down on like your first turn, you're just kind of chilling. You're like, hey, um, nice item lock. I can use my items. You have PCL as well. You have an AZ. Just small cards. Other than that, Groudon's a pretty bad matchup, but you can deal with it because you have Mewtwo. You have Baby Manectrics, Mega Manectrics. You can overrun to break the Sash, and then you can start two-shotting whatever you need to do, tool dropping, just taking damage, chipping away at them where you need to. Um, what are some other big matches? Greninja is super favorable, I think, for this deck because you are doing a lot of damage, and 210 HP is a lot to knock out if they don't have Water Shuriken or Giant Water Shuriken, so you're just garb blocking them and going ham. And with Pokemon Center Lady, you're offsetting a lot of the damage, including balloon damage, and you parallel them to make them to reduce their damage as well. So they can't really do much, and they're like digging for their C's and seeing what they can do, and you can just play the out resource game with them. Excelgor, Wobbuffet is kind of tricky, but again, you do have the Pokemon Center Lady in the AZ, so those matchups should be favorable-ish. Mega Ray is favorable because of the light and the weakness, obviously. Night March is still a little dicey because you got to get the Karen when you need it. If people do play Night March, you could be in a little bit of trouble. Toadbats is a pretty 50-50 because they can just Toad Lock you and you can just draw items and just do bad because you don't get your energies. Other than that, I think this deck is super solid because it deals with a lot of the meta very well. I don't know what the expanded meta is going to be, but looking at Arizona and comparing it to what we're going to see now, it does very strongly against a lot of the top decks that performed at Arizona. That being said, the meta could shift incredibly because of Karen, but that's something that I can't foresee. From my testing, my brief testing so far in Expanded, this has been my favorite deck, and I guess I hope you guys enjoy. This is like a kind of a rough draft still. Um, I have a lot to work on with this list, but this is my favorite list so far. This is I've just been tweaking it here and there. But thank you guys for watching again. Sorry, I've been ranting a little bit. Thank you guys for watching. Please be sure to like the video. Please subscribe and like just let me know what changes you would make maybe to the list and stuff like that. So thank you if you guys are coming to Philly. I'll see you there. Good luck and goodbye.